All right, another question. Yes, the person right here.
Hello, my name's Bridie.
Hi,
Do you want to stand up, Bridie? Sorry.
Okay. I feel that more and more people are feeling alienated by politics. And I think that part of the reason is that I was never taught about politics at secondary school. It was something that I thought didn't concern me, and I only got taught it because I chose to. And I think that part of the problem that more extreme parties are being focused on is because people are feeling alienated, and I wonder what could be done to make them feel part of it again.
Well, I was never taught politics at secondary school, and it probably shows. I've learned the hard way over these last few years. Look, I think when you see bankers acting unfairly and irresponsibly, and then you see politicians with MPs' expenses acting unfairly and irresponsibly, people say, look, our values are, and you're all brought up to believe this, act fairly, act responsibly, be honest, make sure that you make your contribution in the way that you can to society. And then you see people at the top doing things that you cannot excuse, and things that are completely offensive to any idea of fairness and responsibility. I'm not surprised that people are angry, and I'm not surprised that people are sad about what has happened. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm sickened by what's happened. Now, what do you do when you find out that these situations exist? You clean them up, you sort them out, you make sure they never happen again. So every candidate standing at this election for us has got to be open, transparent in everything that they do, subject to questions and to regular reporting of all the information about what they do. MPs cannot make their own decisions now on these issues, made by an independent authority. And so people can see that we have cleaned up the first part of the political system, and that is transparency, openness, and the honest truth about what's happening for MPs. But then I think you've got to go further and say, look, something went wrong, and the bonds of trust between people and the political system were broken. And we've got to be honest about this. This is something that has got to be dealt with at some point in our political system. It's happened in America, it's happened in Germany, it's happened in Australia, it's happened in other countries. We, Britain, pride ourselves to be the home of democracy, and we're going to make a really good democracy so that people have trust in it. And that's why I'm proposing the change in the House of Commons and the change in the House of Lords, and I'm also proposing that we do it by a referendum. It's a break with the past. And then I hope, coming around the country, talking to you, we can deal with the issues that are worrying you, because people have more confidence that they can trust the politicians who are making the decisions. I, like you, feel that people have got a right to be very, very angry about what happened, both in the banks and in the political system. But I, like you, want to see something that means that people are less alienated from the political system and feel that you can actually make your decisions. So, you know, if we have a public service in future, the health service or schools, everything, why can't parents and why can't patients, through the internet, through emailing and everything else, have direct contact with the people who's giving that service? Why can't we have a free flow of information and a feedback, and effectively the patient and the parent and the student more in control of what's happening in the service that they're getting? And that's one of the ways that politics has got to change from the future. Use all the modern means of communication, the internet and emailing and everything that we can now do, so that there's a proper feedback between the people and the politicians who are supposed to serve the people.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I hear people. I think people have said it down the ages. It is really tricky. Politics is, of course, incredibly boring. I mean, it's incredibly tedious. I mean, you're in the middle of it, and as Prime Minister, I don't suppose it is boring is the right word, but people have to work up a lot of layers of boringness to get to any place where they actually feel they might be doing something. But I think I totally agree with you that the internet is now there. These avenues of democracy must be used, and we must work out some way of doing it, because people do feel this disconnect. It's tricky in a country of 60 million to work out how everyone feels connected. And I don't suppose if everyone could vote on everything at all times, people just wouldn't get, you know, if they could all go down to the library or in the home and make decisions, they just wouldn't be making the decisions. They say, actually, I want to go out and have a drink and go have a party or something.
You know, the reason in the end why politics is important is politics is about can mean you lose your job. Politics can mean you don't have a proper health service. Politics can mean you don't have proper policing. Politics can mean in the worst situations in other countries in the world that people lose their lives because of the way that the political system is run, that people go hungry, people don't get support when they want education, people are illiterate, people are undernourished. So that's why politics is important, because it's the way we come together to do the things that are important to us as a community, and we've got to find better ways of doing it. That's what my whole argument is.
Yeah. Who's first-time voters here, by the way? Okay, cool. Well, we'll see how that goes. Right, next vote. Yes, the person right at the back. Fast hands, get it, sorry.
Hi, I'm Harry. How can you expect people to believe you when you talk about House of Lords reform when it was in your manifesto 13 years ago and not much has changed?
Yeah, the first thing we had to do, the first thing we had to do 13 years ago was take as many hereditary peers out of the House of Lords as we could get away with. You know how the British system works. The British system works that the House of Lords has still got a veto for 2 years on major political decisions that are made. And that constitution is not yet fully changed. And so the first thing we did was to try to take as many of the hereditary peers out as possible. And eventually we had to come to an agreement with the Conservatives that we'd leave a certain number of hereditary peers until now. Then we had a situation where we proposed an election system for the House of Lords, 80% elected or 100% elected. And we couldn't get agreement on that between the different parties and even within the parties. So now we're going with another proposal to the country, and that is have a referendum on the issue. Let the people sort it out. The House of Lords has still got a veto for some time on a lot of legislation. They prevented us in the last week removing all hereditary peers because the Conservatives blocked that in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So we've got to go for a referendum where the people decide, an elected, an accountable and non-hereditary House of Lords. Once the people decide, it's got to then be implemented.
So how do they block it if they haven't got the majority?
The Conservatives have more or less a majority in the House of Lords when they need to use it. I mean, Labour has only got 28% of the votes in the House of Lords. And so it's remarkable we get any legislation through the House of Lords as a government when you've got only 28%. They're the most successful minority group in history, the Labour Lords, because they get 28%, they get most of the legislation through. But at times, the House of Lords can block the legislation and they can hold it up for a period of time.
So just on a point of what the law was, the Commons couldn't, even though we had the majority there, couldn't tell the Lords to change itself because the Lords had a say in how they were changed?
Absolutely. The Lords do have a say in how they're changed. Under the British Constitution, the first time, and you'll probably be reading about this in all your history books, the first time it came to a head was 1909, when there was a huge argument about what was called the People's Budget. And Lloyd George had introduced a major radical financial reform. The House of Lords turned it down. The Liberals decided that they would hold an election because the House of Lords had turned it down, and they brought in the House of Lords Reform Act. And the House of Lords Reform Act made it impossible for the House of Lords to deal with budget legislation, so they no longer can deal with the budget. A good reason why they shouldn't deal with the budget, they're completely unelected.
Yeah.
And it's the people who have to pay the price for the budget. Then they restricted the time that the House of Lords could hold back legislation. We had another Parliament Act, 1948, and we've had, obviously, the discussion since 1997. The best way of dealing with the situation is for the people themselves now to decide in a referendum, because legislation can continue to be blocked by a House of Lords that is unaccountable.